Anuj, you're not audible. Anuj, you're not audible.
I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, Anuj.
Yes,
You don't need
yes.
to share any screen. You just go ahead. Oh, now it's gone again.
Again, Anuj, we can't hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I think it could be because of some glitch, some technical glitch. So I'll just start. So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of JDMC and MGGC, I welcome you all to the third session of our online national seminar, that is Tribes, Learning and Unlearning Tribal Culture. This session is called Health and is being chaired by Professor L.K. Pyang. A brief introduction about Dr. Pyang now. Dr. Pyang has done his graduation from Patkai Christian College, Nagaland, and his post graduation from JNU Delhi. He began his teaching career at Dr. K.R. Narayanan Center for the Study of Dalits and Minorities, Jamia Millia Islamia. From this center, after a year, he shifted to National Institute of Health and Family Welfare, New Delhi, and worked in the capacity of assistant professor doing teaching, research, and training in the health sector. His research assignment included an evaluation of health programs and policies of the Government of India, as well as formulation of policy research and practice in the related field of health and demography funded by the state and central government, including international agencies. After serving for 6 years in NIHFW, he joined Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and worked as assistant professor for another 7 years. His research interests include the field of ethnicity and identity politics and how this interfaces with the structure processes of the Indian state. In this capacity, he has brought to his research an activist orientation, bringing to the forefront the case of human rights, conflict resolution, and development and its practices among the communities of the Northeast India. Welcome to the session, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so in this session, we have four research scholars, all unified under their research theme, health. I would like to remind all the presenters that the time limit for every presentation is 10 minutes, so please keep that in mind. And with that, I would like to get onto our first presentation. That is Amulya Guru, who is an MPhil scholar from University of Delhi. And the research title of the presenter is Tribal Culture and Practices Revisited, Developing Resilience Through the Pandemic, Environment, Public Health, and Cultural Relevance in the Indian Context. Amulya,
Am I audible?
yes,
Yeah.
please carry on.
Good afternoon, all, and I'd like to thank the organizing committee for giving this opportunity. So, given the paucity of time, I might not be able to do justice to every uh, nuances of the title or the theme subsumed, but I'll attempt to uh, highlight a few. So, yeah, the way in which tribal areas dealt with the pandemic, their resilience and adaptive practices, so and coping mechanism of sorts, is quite commendable, and I think I will be highlighting as I progress. And uh, the WHO, World Health Organization, defines traditional medicine refers to uh, health practices, approaches, knowledge and beliefs incorporating plant, animal, and mineral-based medicines, spiritual therapies, manual techniques, and exercises applied singularly or in combination to any ailments or to maintain general well-being. So, yeah, the post-COVID scenario in many cases nuanced the need for an efficient healthcare delivery system and pertinence of primary health. And however, it's not justified to state that India did not work to corroborate with the MDGs and SDGs, uh, still in pursuit of the above goals, and primarily focusing on the tribal areas in the central and northeast or the other parts of India. So as I progress, I'll detail a few of them. So the Organization of Primary Healthcare and Human Resources, or for Health, HRH, generated a need for organizational structure of primary healthcare in tribal areas to establish tribal health. And there have been remarkable instances of local participation and for raising awareness of sorts. So tribal health workers and as well as tribal counselors, they were established to improve primary healthcare in tribal areas. This can also be instantiated with a close and or in reference to the ASHA, accredited social health activist under National Rural Health Mission. And yeah, so to further investigate this theme or contour, tribal healthcare beliefs or the examination is quite pertinent here. Tribals also referred as Adim Jati, Vanvasi, or Pahari, or Anusuchit Janjati, and inhabiting different ecological and geoclimatic regions display distinct lifestyle and practices. This can be related to the cultural pertinence of the theme that I mentioned in the paper, and furthermore, the community's emphasis on herbal plants, natural therapy, and environment-induced measures. They refer to both physical, non-physical well-being, and this is quite interesting as we just go deeper or delve into the topic. And mostly, I'm focusing on at this aspect, this point of time, mountainous regions of North India, Northeast, and some Central Indian areas, and their particular reference to or allusion to ethnobiology. So yet another theme that we can see or that emerges is in relation to the measures adopted during the pandemic, a greater degree of reliance over such interventions and non-reliance on modern medical interventions made it a little indigenized or pertinent, and folk culture and tribal wisdom, for that matter, have been detrimental in dealing with healthcare contingencies in tribal communities and dependence on them and the environment, and in dealing with both psychosomatic and physical ailments. So when we talk about this approach, it's also referring to non-conventional practices, as well as their faith healing and magico-religious and supernatural methods. So yeah, in India, we see the wealth of folklores associated with traditional healthcare to converge natural ecosystem-related approaches with other supernatural approaches. Let's say, for instance, in Santal tribes in Rajasthan, Boto, Amshi system, tribes in the Northeast, Ladakh, other even pertinent tribal communities. So, and this also sort of juxtaposes the cultural relevance of herbalists, commonly referred as Jangar, or also the spiritists, known as the Bopas. So now the second theme may be their close proximity to environment in terms of general well-being. So even despite the challenges faced by modernity and sort of globalization changes, or all these dynamic changes, the tribal or the indigenous populations still they abide by their traditional and indigenous practices, and this autonomy displayed by them in terms of their indigenous knowledge and linkages with culture and ecology have been indispensable to Indian socio-cultural fabric too. And this also brings out the pertinence of culture and traditional medicine. So their own healthcare system, grounded in forest, herbs, and ecology, has further reiterated the relevance of environment. This is not only related to a singular approach on healthcare, but is a dynamic sort of interplay between social, cultural, economic, and traditional factors. The reason why tribal communities prefer traditional approach over modern intervention is due to the overarching significance of the environment and the sustainability factor provided by their methods. Also, another pertinent theme that emerges is their distinct approach on the etiology of diseases, causes, and a reconsideration of a composite approach on healthcare. So this is to say that the well-being criteria is not only physical, but is determined by cultural, social, and environmental factors. So this also sort of juxtaposes the intricacies while approaching healthcare and its prerequisites. Physiological factors are as important as socio-cultural factors in ensuring effective healthcare. So this is further highlighted when we see that furthermore tribal health cannot be defined only in terms of medical or biological factors, but have to be corroborated with socio-cultural practices as well. So this can be seen in traditional healing practices, in medico-religious approaches, and even the relevance of pluralistic practices in terms of culture and tradition. Now, in terms of this has also strengthened the notion of India as a pluralistic nation in terms of culture, religion, traditions, and this also raises the need for a further understanding of the complexities, the nitty-gritties within the communities and societies.
2 minutes.
Yeah. So, and this is to strengthen the national health and well-being. So I'll jump to some of the instances during how they displayed resiliences. Like some Naga tribes, or like Pumai and Tangkol, they set up quarantine centers and innovative practices throughout the northeast and even central India to, prevent as preventive measures, and even as self-isolation or other innovative practices to even as a deterrent factor or a protective factor. And this has this can be referred to in many literatures that were published later. And I think still more themes, but I think I should wind up here. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Amulya, for wrapping it up on time. So now I would like to invite our second paper presenter, Neemkar Anusha, a research scholar from Department of Anthropology, University of Hyderabad. And the research title of the presenter is Utilization of IT-enabled medical innovation in healthcare services, an anthropological understanding of the telemedicine among the Savaras of Pithampeta Mandal, Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. So, Neemkar, please. Yeah.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present here. Can I share my PPT on the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, my presentation topic is Utilization of IT-enabled medical innovations in healthcare services and anthropological understanding of the telemedicine among the Savaras of Sitampeta Mandal, Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. The Savaras are classified as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. The Savaras are one of the most primitive tribes of Andhra Pradesh. They are demographically distributed across 7 states, including Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Bihar, Assam, and Tripura. In Andhra Pradesh, 90% of the Savara community is inhabiting in the areas of Parvatipuram, Palakonda, Pathapatnam, Tekkali, and Sompeta mandals of Srikakulam and Vizianagaram districts. The distinct feature of all the Savara settlements is their location on hill slope and language Savara. The primary occupation of the Savaras is shifting cultivation. IT-enabled medical innovations in healthcare services. Innovation in medicine can range from improving an existing intervention to introducing an innovation in one's own clinical practice for the first time to using an existing intervention in a novel way or transforming knowledge from one clinical context to another. Medical innovation refers new, better, more effective ways of solving problems. There is a constant search for ideas in regard to the use of IT for improvement of primary health care, which helps in strategic planning, reduction of the cost, and maximization of the use of resources. IT-enabled medical innovation in healthcare services are challenging in remote areas. due to a lack of trained or efficient health staff and advanced medical infrastructure such as hospitals and diagnostic centers. Technology-driven healthcare is evolving as a preferred choice of healthcare model in recent years in our country to ensure minimum time delays and greater accuracy. The innovation in healthcare service had led to the development of telemedicine services. The main objective of the study focuses on institutional arrangements, utilization of telemedicine services, perceptions on telemedicine services, and the factors encouraging and discouraging the use of telemedicine services among the Savaras. The methodology of the study. The present study was conducted among the Savaras of Sitampeta Mandal in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. Both primary and secondary data was collected. The major stakeholders who are involved in this are people who are delivering and utilizing these services. The study adapted to use the mixed methods to collect the data and use anthropological research methods such as participant observation, case studies, schedules, and structured interviews. I have used two sampling methods, purposive and random sampling methods. Patients with illness who use the telemedicine service of 20 hamlets under 2 e-subcenters are covered.
Madam, your
Anuj,
slides are not moving.
yeah,
Okay.
I think, yeah, now it is.
Okay. The World Health Organization has defined telemedicine as the delivery of healthcare services where distance is a critical factor by all healthcare professionals using information and communication technologies for the exchange of valid information for diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease and injuries, research and evaluation, and for the continuing education of healthcare providers, all in the interest of advancing the health of individuals and their communities. Telemedicine is considered to be the remote diagnosis and treatment of patients by means of telecommunications technologies, thereby providing substantial health care to low-income regions. Telemedicine has reduced distance and extra strain for rural population to travel to the super specialty hospitals in the cities. This communication process helps the patient to clarify his medical changes and queries by staying at home and avoiding to traveling process, which saves time and money. Telemedicine is a new healthcare practice which allows real-time video communication between patient and doctor. The system consists of telemedicine devices such as mobile tabs and a computer, special software for capturing images and video at both patients and doctors' end, along with the availability of internet access. This is the level of healthcare in the Srikakulam district. There is district hospital at Srikakulam and then area hospital at Palakonda, then community health center at Sitampeta, then primary healthcare center in Donubai and Maripadu. For my study, I have taken these two subcenters. Subcenters will come after primary health center. I have taken Somagandi and Devanapuram subcenter for the study. Telemedicine facilities in Sitampeta. These were started by Dhanush Software in Sitampeta with government support in May 2019. They were given training to BSc nursing graduates on the telemedicine. I have taken two telemedicine centers, Devanapuram and Somagandi, which comes under PHC Donubai and PHC Maripadu respectively. 34 patients have utilized the telemedicine centers in both the telemedicine centers. The e-subcenter of Sitampeta comes under real-time or synchronic telemedicine, where the center and receiver both are online at the same point of time and live transfer of information occurs. It also provides healthcare to the unreached population by giving them direct access to the medical professional. Sometimes the doctor in the telemedicine will travel to the hamlets with the mobile tab. The primary healthcare and specialist referral services are provided in this telemedicine center. Coming to the major and minor illness, I have categorized them, the minor illness which is less than 7 days and the major illness as more than 7 days. The Savara's minor illnesses are abdominal pain, antenatal checkup, arthritis, back pain, body pains, BP checkup, headache, chest pain, cold, cough, fever, etc. And the major illness are abdominal pain, back pain, accident, viral and recurrent fevers, which are more than 7 days. 88.2% of the patients considered family members' decision, whereas 82% of the patients considered community members and ASHA workers' decision in choosing telemedicine services. 61.29% of the important health decisions in the family are taken by husbands among Savaras. The major reason to consider and share the symptoms of the patient are to seek the medical advice, for accompanying to the hospital, for moral and financial support. Utilization of telemedicine services. Each subcenter will have a tab which is connected with Wi-Fi. The app named eSubcenter is pre-installed in the tab. The telemedicine doctor will fill patient's particulars for registration and the symptoms of the illness are entered into that system. Then they call to the doctor. The patient will receive the ID number and text message to his or her mobile. The doctors or specialists are from Vishakhapatnam, Vijayawada, and Hyderabad. They will pick the video call and talk to the patients about their illness. If they can't speak the Telugu language, the ASHA worker in that center will assist the patient to communicate with the doctor. Based on patient's condition, the doctor will suggest medicine to him or her, which should be collected from the vending machine in the e-subcenter. The time taken by the doctor to pick the call is mentioned in the table here. And most of the doctors are from Vishakhapatnam,
Anush,
then Hyderabad.
more minutes.
Okay. 89% of the illness required only tablets, whereas 11% of the patients are referred to PHCs and CHCs for better medical tests. The mode of transport and distance are mentioned here. The perceptions of telemedicine services. The social relationship between patients and doctors and their staff should be better to utilize new advantages in the medical staff. The gaps in the health infrastructure, like great absenteeism of care providers, the improper supply of medical drugs and devices, and low cooperation between medical staff and insensitivity towards cultural beliefs and values of people are great concern of Savaras. The medical innovation structure and dynamics are regularly assumed by government instead of being analyzed whether it is appropriate or not for the tribes. The adoption of medical innovation should fulfill the need of the community. The factors encouraging and discouraging the use of telemedicine services. Encouraging factors are it saves time, provide easy accessibility, free service, reduce medical costs, reduce the strain on the healthcare providers. It reduces frequent visits to the hospital for the common man to consult specialist doctors. And the discouraging factors are travel expenses and distance, disrupting their daily responsibilities as majority of them are horticulture and agricultural laborers. Factors for poor utilization. The delay in video call will take up to 5-10 minutes based on the availability of the doctor. The patients are not comfortable to talk to doctor on a video call. Patient expressed their dissatisfaction for not meeting the doctor personally. Women felt uncomfortable to talk about gynecological issues as 77% of the doctors were male. The other reasons are that the doctor only prescribed the tablets. There are no injections or salines in the telemedicine center. The
Anush,
telemedicine,
bit up.
yeah. And there is also language barrier. This is the final conclusion slide. The findings of the study showcase the change in healthcare brought about the IT-enabled telemedicine services among the Savaras, the utilization of the telemedicine service, institutional arrangements, perceptions of telemedicine, and factors and encouraging and discouraging the use of telemedicine services are discussed. Medical innovation in IT-enabled healthcare is challenged in tribal settings because of the lack of staff efficiency to work with new medical devices and impractical schedules designed in tribal hospitals. It is true that the use of IT in rendering health services did not give the intended benefits, even though telemedicine cannot be a solution to all the problems. It is surely helping to decrease the burden on the healthcare system to a large extent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now I would like to call our third presenter, Sudeshna Biswas, a PhD scholar from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. And the research title of the presenter is The Bill Healer and the Specialist Ethnographic Study from Raghunathpura, Udaipur, Rajasthan. Sudeshna?
Yes. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes.
Is it visible?
Not yet. Just give it a
Wait,
second, perhaps.
Okay. Just a second. Can you, am I, wait, am I able to share, am I able to, is it, wait,
It's not visible, but you have the rights to share your screen.
okay, yes. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's coming now.
Okay, just, okay. Is it visible and am I audible?
Yes, both.
Okay, so I'm starting.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sudeshna Biswas, Research Scholar for Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today, the topic of my presentation is the Bhil Healer and the Specialist, ethnography study from Raghunathpura, Udaipur, Rajasthan. So, the paper explores the curative aspects of illness and disease amongst the Bhil with the help of two detailed case study. The study is based on 2 week short fieldwork in the village. The data is primarily based on exponential notions of the locals. The study presents a medley of facts between the narratives spoken by the natives, and it presents an anthropological insight into certain significant religious rituals and usage of traditional scientific knowledge system into curing diseases and illness that prevailed amongst them. So, in the backdrop, we can have a brief on medical anthropology. It's a subdiscipline of anthropology that deals with ill health in cross-cultural focus, that has both biological and cultural factors into its domain. To make universal generalization, focuses upon the understanding of the cultural belief, conceptions of the causation of illness, and diagnostic methods employed in that culture, promotive and preventive measures. And also, it talks about the factors, mechanism, processes that play a role or influence the way in which individuals or groups are affected by and respond to illness and diseases. It's a bicultural discipline concerned with both biological and sociocultural aspects of human behavior, particularly the ways in which the two interacts. So the area of my study is in Girwa Tehsil of Udaipur district in Rajasthan, a village called Raghunathpura. Shobhakpura is a Gram Panchayat. It's a caste and tribe village with approximately 1.141 families residing and 724 people approximately, according to census 2001. It's a multi-caste village, but Bhils are in the most majority. Others like Meghwals, Brahmins, Sudar, Salvis, Banjaras also live. But
Our screens aren't changing in case you are trying for it.
yes, I'm changing. Wait. Okay. Is it visible?
Now, yes, it is.
Okay, so the other groups of inhabitants, they have migrated from the different locations. So this is a brief village map that talks about the village, and these are some of the pictures from my field. They are my key informants. So the methodology of the study is a typical anthropological methodology. It was a resident type of field work to come up with an essence of field at the ground level. It incorporated a mixed study and had incorporated quasi participant observations. I had included case studies and unstructured interviews, jottings and scratch notes, and rapport building was one of the important tool that I had used during the study. Since my paper was not based on causative aspects of diseases, but yet to have a glimpse, I have classified the disease and illnesses into two distinct categories: the natural causations and the supernatural causations. So this is a pictorial depiction of the natural causations that are prevalent in the village, like age-related, communicable, humoral diseases, occupational diseases, etc. And these are the supernatural causations of diseases such as the evil eye, and there's one myth that says that there's a super mythical figure called Banjara, called Raraji. I have given a picture here, depicted here. So a curse from him would cause illness. So these are major of the causative aspects, but my paper deals with the healing and the healers, and talks about two case studies. So herein, I come up with my first case study, a case of ritual healing practitioner called the Bhopa. So they are the medium between the supernatural and the earthly beings. They diagnose as well as cure the supernaturally caused illnesses, such illnesses that are caused by non-human intervention, like evil eye, spirits, ancestor, etc. Bhopas are those persons chosen by the god to heal the sick. Legend goes that they get possessed by Bharuji or Mataji, as locally called, and the number of successive apparition would follow, and this would give the person the ability to heal. And they usually, over a period of multiple healings, they get they get to communicate with the supernatural. The patients who are brought to them, they show peculiar characteristics like becoming aggressive, twisted speech, shivering in pain. Certainly the Bhopas therefore are the primary contact for such illnesses, and if fail, they must seek biomedical healings. So how much the healing would be effective is based on a pure psychological aspects, a mindset that the healer is always successful, the a faith on him that makes the patient psychological to understand that he has been cured. through, though biomedically they might not be. So basically, for the treatment of fright as a cultural illness, they resort to these healers. This has also been reported out by Klingmang and Sung. They usually do like jhada and jhafuk to sweep away the illnesses away. The village currently has one residing practitioner called Magnaji, as the story of him being a bhopa remains the same, which due to the time constraints I won't be detailed out, but it is imperative here to understand that he is again a man who communicates with God. He would get possessed by showing signs like severe fever, headaches, and other physical sickness, and then he gets a new aura, the ability to heal. We can say that they get bestowed with the spiritual blessings, and these figures play a very significant role in tribals day-to-day life or treating illness that has less or minimal clinical manifestations. The next case is that of a scientific curing of disease which are more or less have biomedical manifestations. Disease like diarrhea, pneumonia, skin diseases, cough and cold, age related disorders, etc. Basically curing those which are according to the villagers are caused naturally, which I have classified before and shown as a chart as well. Here I take up the case of Kukaram Maharaj, an old Bhil man residing in the village whom villagers revert and resort to a lot to cure natural diseases due to his vast knowledge of remedies that he has, that also supports science. I would here brief out a few significant indigenous practices he gave insights into. For example, for cough, cold, ingestion, local beels or colored are being used. For diarrhea, holy basil is used. Also, sweet lime and smashed bananas play a very significant role. Even Sai says that sweet lime has flavonoids that stimulates digestion and helps in peristaltic motion. Orange peel, locally known as chopta, could be used to smell if felt pukation. The citrus in the orange peel would help to lessen it down. Skin rashes could be cured with neem, babool, or Vachellia nilotica could be used for dental problems. Jaundice could be cured with a local variety of sugarcane.
We have 3 more minutes.
Yeah. Skin white patches could be cured by chopped onion, garlic, etc. So there are innumerable accounts which I have explained in details in my paper, which I'm not able to discuss here due to the time limit. But what is important to understand is that there is a cultural dichotomy existing. On one hand, tribals are resorting to ritual curing that is surrounded by supernatural forces, and on the other hand, they are also taking help of the natural specialist man rich in traditional knowledge to cure the disease which have natural causation. It is also important to learn from them the rich knowledge they have to cure basic diseases naturally. The contemporary highly industrial society people, have exploited the Western medicine to such extent that serious biomedical concerns have risen, like multi-drug antibiotic resistance. Rather than we must learn from our rich heritage, culture, and knowledge India has for curing from these people. So these are again some of the pictures from my field. And to conclude my presentation, to understand the belief structure of the villages connected with concepts of illness, disease, and treatment, is univocal to accept their conceptions, the same context in their own cultural context, and it's therefore imperative to undertake an analysis of their existing plural medical system and the preferences of the one over the other associated with, and what are the rationales of such practices. The study presents an interaction between facts and the narrative spoken by the natives, which reflects their belief system on illness and disease that are embedded in the culture. And therefore, the paper presents an anthropological insight into certain significant rituals and usage of traditional scientific knowledge systems into curing disease and illness that prevails among them through ethnographic case studies amongst the Bhil residing in the village. So these are some of the references which I have taken into consideration, and thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I would like to call our fourth paper presenter, Dr. Ruby Bhardwaj, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology, Janki Devi Memorial College. And the research title of the presenter is Tribal Health Policy, Some Observations. Ma'am. Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself.
Just give me a second. I'm just.
Yeah, sure.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this paper is based, I'm just going to discuss some of very few, just two of the objectives and the implications of these objectives, which have been recommended by the expert committee on tribal health. So as we've been listening to Mr. Gurung and others, we know that tribal medicine, or ethnomedicine as it's called, represents a legacy of traditional knowledge and wisdom in healing. It's holistic, not only because it represents the unity of mind and body, but also because it is inextricably linked to the ecology, social, cultural belief patterns of a given community. And it is on account of this that the the medical practices have a kind of tenacity as well as a dynamism, which has helped them to sustain themselves through the ages, despite competition from biomedicine. So you all know that this is tacit knowledge, it is passed on orally, and I'm not going to go into the details of this, you are all aware of this. And now what has happened in the recent few decades is that on account of industrialization, urbanization, and rapid degradation of the environment, the tribal population is now facing what is called the triple burden of disease, which is that they do suffer from communicable diseases such as tuberculosis, malaria. They are now beginning to show that they also suffer from other non-communicable diseases, which are lifestyle diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, cancer. And of course, a lot of mental health problems are coming up, especially with regard to substance abuse of alcohol and tobacco. Now, on one hand, there is increasing vulnerability. On the other hand, we find that there is a paucity of medical resources, both traditional as well as modern. So in the case of traditional medical resources, we find that because of deforestation and ecological changes, there has been loss of herbs, depletion of the herbal pharmacopoeia, and also the fact that traditional healers, because they're not able to find the herbs, they're migrating out in search of alternative employment. On the other hand, there is shortfall of the medical personnel, biomedical personnel. Just to let you know, I'll be using the term biomedicine and allopathy interchangeably, so please don't get confused for those of you who are not acquainted with these terms. So there is a shortfall of people in the PHCs, and therefore, I think Anusha has talked about the fact that there is telemedicine happening there now. So, and also there is a resistance towards allopathic medicine because it just does not fit with the worldview of the tribal population. Now, because of these two main factors, the fact that there is paucity of resources and there is increasing vulnerability, the government came out with this report. I just showed you the first page. And this is a very important chapter towards which I would like to draw your attention. The research committee recommends, the expert committee recommends that we should integrate tribal medicine into primary health care. And there are certain objectives, and I'm just going to discuss the implications of two of these objectives. It says that we should study, document, test the tribal health traditions, particularly the tribal systems of medicine of different tribes. And in doing so, the tribal herbal medicine has to undergo rigorous testing, documentation, and then after testing, validation, then disseminates the knowledge back into the community. Okay, this is the proposal. And the second objective is that the tribal health practitioners should be integrated into primary health care, which means that there is also a suggestion that the tribal practitioners should adopt a referral role, whereby whenever they find somebody who has tuberculosis or animal bites or malaria or any other serious disease, they should refer that person to an allopath. And the committee suggests that there should be a system of incentives which should be worked out, whereby the two healers, the allopaths, are not looked at as people who are rivals of the traditional practitioners. Now, I'm going to look at the implications of these two objectives on on the herbal pharmacopoeia, on the healers, and also on the system of medicine. So talking about the testing. So when you are talking about medicines, these medicines, to whichever system of medicine they belong to, they all have been governed by the same principles of ontology that governs the explanation of disease as well as the ordering of disease. And the fact that most of the medicines of the tribal community are herbs, the herbs also have a sanctity of which is derived from the context. Again, the herbs, when they become medicines, they go through a process which is culturally constructed. So you must have noticed yourselves that often certain things are had in the form of kava, certain herbs are had in the form of a kava when they are boiled, some other herbs are had as paste, other herbs are had as dried and powdered things. So every herb has a process which the practitioner knows very well, which comes from traditional wisdom. And therefore, in the understanding of efficacy, it is crucial to consider the emic interpretations or the interpretations of the native, which is very, very important to the understanding of indigenous medicine. But what is happening is, in the name of testing, these medicines are being tested in the labs, which are governed by the principles of modern medicine. And hence, the pharmacopoeia is being severed from its cognitive context. Now, this system of testing, which is in sync with the biomedicine and their principles, is actually going to help biomedicine appropriate some of these herbs to cure cancer or other diseases for which they don't have any cure as of now. It is definitely not going to help the tribal population.
Ma'am, you have 3 more minutes.
Okay. So the second aspect of this is the contradiction, which I want to point out, that in case the government wants to document and test tribal healing, then obviously you cannot have healers becoming the agents or adopting the referral role. And the report itself cites the fact that there was an experiment conducted whereby they found that when they tried to integrate traditional healers in PHCs, it was found that there was a lot of resistance by the allopathics, and the traditional healers also did not want to share their knowledge. And some of them are also trying to turn into quacks in the process of adopting the principles of the other medicine. Finally, we have seen in the study of Ayurveda system, whether it is naturopathy or yoga, or even in the case of Chinese medicine, whenever any system of medicine is integrated within the rubrics of modern medicine, it only serves to truncate the therapy and bring it in as an adjunct therapy within the paradigm of biomedicine. Because the diagnostic principles, the nosology, the rationale, the worldview of biomedicine begins to govern the new systems which it is integrating within it, which then serves to disturb the holism, which is the essence of tribal medicine. So I have a few suggestions that the two systems may coexist. People can be given education and awareness about what kind of system works better. And we have seen ethnographies where people are accepting allopathy for infections and fevers and going to the traditional healers for other kinds of illnesses. And we need very strongly I propose the role of anthropologists and sociologists in cognizing the empirical reality and contributing to policy making. And integration is actually not going to help tribal medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll just
Thank you for keeping it in time. And with that, we have all the presenters presented. And I would like to say here that quite an enriching session that we are having right now. I'm myself, quite a researcher in health studies. And though I'm studying it in terms of literary associations, but it's quite refreshing and quite new to look at it from indigenous perspective, and quite enriching session. So I would like to request everyone to just post their questions in the comment section as well. Meanwhile, I would like to invite Dr. Piang now to provide his valuable feedback to the presenters.
Okay, thank you very much, the organizing team, for inviting me for this to chair this one. And then, as we have really sort of time, I'll just go straight to some kind of a my comment and a view from the presentation which has made. The first presenter, of course, as the paucity of times, he could not really deal much want, and then he by the time he is ready to present what exactly is the kind of a finding which he has, the times up, that's why and one thing which he has said is that the tribal prefer traditional approach is something that also cannot be generalized at various places. For example, if we just look at the last presenter also, Ruby presenter, if we just mix up together, for example, in the times when the Britisher comes to Mizoram, and then they distributed various other medicine, and then suddenly, which they could not really cure in their own way, they are taking up the medicine, and then now they call it damdoi, means something which they cannot call it, and then healings of the evil, that the medicine they are using. So there can be, and so in our studies, contextualizations of various tribes will be very much important. And one thing is that, the other thing is that I think Gurung can highlight, if we have time, whatever it is promised in the, especially the abstract, he would like to have, highlight some of the tribal practice which can be help or contributing to the areas of public health, and as well as the environmental wealth, all that kind of a promise. He don't have time to really roll it out during his presentation. Maybe we can give if 1 or 2 minutes to present that part also. And then one thing what he said is about is that when the presenter, the tribals, which is very much a holistic, and the procedures and everything is very important. So if we could give that Gurung to present that part. Another thing is that the second presenter, I think the perceptions and everything he has highlighted very well, especially the utilizations of these telemedicine things. And that one thing is that the awareness, because only 34 persons are using the telemedicine. That's, if I'm not mistaken, if I the slide, if I could read properly, if I have read properly. One thing which he pointed out is that around 34 or 43 or something like that, the figure comes out that quite a few are using, and then the population as such is a large concentrations of the tribal population. If we can have that, the perceptions of the tribals at the local level, what exactly, why they could not make use of that one, that part is the other, what she has present, I'm not going to point out, but if she can bring out that one, then that will be what the papers would be really meaningful. As of now also, it is very meaningful, and the information which she provide are enriching. But if that part is also can be elaborated, and then another aspect is that the awareness levels of those who are at the community level. These two, because sometimes we provided the facilities at the health centers, a sub-health center, and then the communities are not aware of it. That level, these two will be really helpful. And then what is the awareness level? And then how far the peoples are comfortable. Of course, he said that they are not comfortable. And then how to make that the IEC and then comfortable. What are the kind of the health systems are taking up to really make the people and then the user friendly for the telemedicine, especially using the tech and telephones and videos. All the things also can be looked into something. So mostly the problems which she has talked about is that the transportations and all this, and the distance, and then the accessibilities of even the tech, especially among the tribals, will be something, the telemedicine using the tablet or at the facility levels. Because most of the time, the health center, the sub-health center is stayed in one village, and then as it is set up on the basis of the population. So many of the tribal will not be able to reach that. Was in one of the field work in Madhya Pradesh, what we come across is that to avail the health facilities, they have to travel. And then there is no transportation system also. And then once in a while, the bus comes. And then they have to spend 50 rupees up and down. So that one is difficult for them. At the same time, the only available is the local healers and all that things. And then the ASA and all those people who are not really a trained one. And that they are the only facilitators, mostly in most cases. So that is the problem which they're facing. And then even these, even the Mandriga and all also, they cannot avail that one because they have to take it from the bank. And then for that matter, to get the 100 or something, they have to spend 50 rupees. So those are the difficulties which NIMCAR can look into that also, that part. This is something which will be very helpful. And then at the same time, the local healers and the healers problems, even me in my field work also in among the Sivpuri, among the tribals where many are malnourished, and then I have seen that one. And then there is a kind of, as Ruby mentioned, there is a kind of contestation between the local healers and then the health system. And then this is the problems which the local healers are giving some kind of a warning also. If you are going to them, don't come here again. Then they are in the crossroad. And then the problem which they are facing, it is not necessarily that he can take care of it, everything also. And at the same time, he is the only one available in the village. So that part, the government need to be taken care also, and the health system also. That is something which is a challenge I could see. And then what is that? The healers. And sometimes, yep, of course, as Ruby has mentioned, the testings and all the things, and then making the biomedical medicines and all that kind of corporate richer is one thing, very dangerous part. But another thing is that as far as possible, can there be any kind of a mainstreaming up to some level at the health system, so as the healer also participate in facilitating various things, like the project which I happen to be a part of, the UNICEF project, was a malnutrition problem. And then in that, it needs some kind of a resources which the healers don't have. And then, so rehabilitation is required. In that kind of a situation, in certain aspect, as Ruby has mentioned, we can accommodate, and then we can even rope them in and then be a participant in it. So one thing is the whole systems, the tribal systems as such. One thing which is very important is that really roping in them and then mainstreaming the whole systems will not work, as Ruby has mentioned. But there are certain aspects which even the healers and then even the tribal communities also can participate. And then even among the tribals now also, the younger generation, they don't know much about the kind of herbs and all the kind of things, the procedure which they are doing. That one, as if they could really document, and then if the community learn it again also, it will be something very important, one thing, as it is mentioned. Another thing is that, I don't know whether you have seen Gordon Ramsay travels among the Nagas tribes in the Indo-Myanmar border areas. And then where in the community hunting, Gordon was hurt at the leg. And suddenly one elder comes and then wraps certain kind of a leaf and then the blood stuff, the oozing of the blood stuff. So that kind of thing is something which is interesting, which we have to know. And not only the tribals, even some of us can use that one. And then some of the herbs which I know, as I stayed in Hyderabad also, now I saw some of the herbs surround my areas, but not everyone will be knowing that things. That is a kind of, I think, which we need to think and rethink about it. And then, the healers, especially the President Sudesna Biswa's presentation was really something which is very much a challenge, in the sense like the healers and the indigenous knowledge and then the practitioners, all these things are, as we know that it is something, all are connected. It is a holistic things. And that if we carve it out, and if we are taking out the kind of various supernatural causes, and then these two are linking, and then among the tribals, they are, whatever they could not do certain healings, and then they are using double irritant also sometimes, because of some pneumonia, the child is really ill, or some painful things they come across. So they are even poke with some, hot iron, so as to make it double irritant. That kind of practice I could see in the Sipuri area. And then some mark also I see from the baby because of the poke with the hot iron and all that kind of things. And then in that situation, how will you, how do we reach about that one? I think that part is something which is a challenge in the present, in presenting. Of course, we cannot really cut out something, but we can really help them in developing the kind of the medicine which they are developing. And then Ruby's presentation, I think it is an analysis. And then, as I have already mentioned about her presentation throughout. So I think the scarcity and non-availabilities is something which is, she make it very rightly, and that is very important among the tribals, as I already mentioned also. It is all the times we could not reach them. And then one little experience which I have in a Dalit hamlet, which is very far from a distance of the so-called wedding crowd. And then from there, we by the time we reach, we realize that there is nothing in the sub-health center, not even if medicine, not life-saving medicine, and nothing. But those who are manning the sub-health center could provide, in a place where there is no electricity, cold Coca-Cola. So that shows that how we could not reach the medicines and everything, or the facilities, we could not reach them. But the Coca-Cola and then the Pepsi can reach them. They could serve me the very cold Coca-Cola at the sub-health center. So that is the situation, and then the unreachable kind of things, and the difficult situation, and that what is it exactly is that the availabilities of the facilities at their doorstep or at the community level, also something which is very important, and that there is a barrier. And then as Guru mentioned, the tribal prefer the traditional system. It is not always not necessary for everything, but there has to be, we have to push through that, what are the barriers that really make them prefer the traditional things. That will be from the health system side. They have to retrospect and reflect it. I think I'm not really sure whether I could really comment on the way we are expected, and then this is something. And then most of the, as the time is so short, and that they could not really spread out their presentations, and then I feel so sorry for that. And I think it's time for questions from the those participants here.
Yeah. So there's a question to Dr. Bhardwaj by Vinay Brandon. Ma'am, it's in the comment section. I'll read it out to you. So to Dr. Bhardwaj, how do you see the evolution of integrated and complementary medicine unfolding in the contemporary scenario, given the social protectionist interest by the Indian state to promote both wide-scale adoption while preserving national IPR interest in traditional indigenous medicinal knowledge? Can these epistemic differences be reconciled by the global biomedical complex in the context of a pandemic, where new unknowns are impelling new systems of curative diagnostic hybridity?
Well, yes, definitely. There is a lot of scope of learning, both from complementary medicines and from allopathy, especially the diagnostics from allopathy. But the question here is not just about that. The question is, whenever we are talking about integration, we are talking about a situation of biomedical hegemony. And that is something which is highly avoidable, because what happens then is that whenever we are talking about whether it is Chinese medicine, because I have done my research in the city of Delhi, and I have found that even in the clinics where naturopathy is being practiced, they have just taken the therapy out of massage. Because, for example, in naturopathy, medicine is toxic. They believe that anything that you ingest in the form of medicine is absolutely toxic, and that toxicity is causing the disease that you're suffering from. So in a situation like this, how can you have biomedicine or medicines being consumed along with therapy being given in the form of massages and sauna baths, and those are not going to get rid of your toxins. Similarly, in the Chinese system, I have seen that acupuncture becomes adjunct therapy, where the whole diagnostics and the prescription actually comes from the biomedical practitioners. It is not coming from the Chinese healer or from a naturopath. And you look at all the clinics in Gangaram Hospital or other pain clinics, they are all functioning on the principles of allopathy.
I hope that clears the
Yes,
question.
during the pandemic, yes, this is something I would like to point out, because what was happening is that here was a system which was at its wits' end. Like, they have no vaccine. I'm talking in the context when the pandemic just struck us. So we have no vaccine in allopathy. We have no clear-cut line of treatment. And here, the only way to deal with the situation was to boost up your immunity. And that is where the entire plethora of, your naturopathy, your Ayurvedic kavas, and all kinds of homeopathic preventive medicines. Yes, we did use, the government, when I'm saying we, the government did come out with full page, advertisements of how naturopathy can help and how your allopathy can help and how homeopathy can help. So yes, just to boost the immunity, but not really to treat the disease.
Thank you, ma'am. So if there are other questions, I request others to please post it in the comment section. Since we do have time, so if other presenters would like to add something to their presentation.
Anuj, as
yeah.
sir was saying, could we have Guru
Yes,
present, sir, with your permission, since you were suggesting?
Yes.
Professor Piang?
Yes.
You were suggesting that maybe Guru could present 5 minutes of his presentation.
Some of the highlights which the tribal practice which can contribute to the public health and the environmental health, that part will be very interesting if he has anything in specific.
Audible?
Yeah, but bring your microphone a bit closer. It's not
now,
that
is it okay now?
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Yang, for your responses. Firstly, I was trying to avoid hasty generalizations, but in my attempted approach in the paper with its limited scope, I just thought in most of the instances, and maybe later I can share the references if you want. So in the references I took, mostly they were suggestive of the practices, and I do have a few practices, but relating to your question, I think I'd like to just speak on firstly something on integrating traditional tribal medicine to primary healthcare. So out here, it's sort of an overview. Traditional medicine, people's health culture, or they're referring to the tribals in even the Northeast and most of the. So later I might talk. So it's usually an oral tradition of healing techniques and properties of plants, and passed from a generation to and it's not the Ayush or allopathic doctor, but so and modern medicine and public health will continue to coexist, but mostly, um, yeah. So even the second presenter talked about some of the practices, but most tribal societies believe that these are caused by supernatural factors, forces, and then there are certain practices like uh, so so in the Northeast or even so there's a paper. So I might not have gone into that detail, but some of the practices like even focusing more on the spiritists or even ethno-religious practices and how so I might come to that later, but secondly, I'll just like to move on to this governance and participation, which is relating to public health in that area. So National Tribal Health Council has and that has been like suggested, and there's just been a study on surveys by NFHS, TLHS, NSSO, and others have uh, come up with tribal health index and even tribal health research cells and taluka tribal health officers, and even I talked about ashas and even all those. So they have talked, and I didn't think like I'll prepare a presentation just or a PPT for just 10 minutes. So I think, yeah, and particularly maybe in let's say in Ladakh or in certain tribes in northeast, they have so for instance in Sikkim there's something called the Banjakri, or they have their own even for ailments like TB or even cancer or even this COVID, like pulmonary diseases. They have their herbal medicine and they have certain rituals they have. So all the names and all that I if you could give me some time, I can refer to that later. So I think just like to wind up here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just come in. Yeah, thank you very much, Gurung. One thing Biswas has also mentioned about it in her presentation about the supernatural causation. This part is something which need to be really uh, taken care in the sense like in our area, especially in the Northeast, in certain area, this sometimes possession, I don't know in other society it will be there, or possession was very much there. And then there are people who could tackle that one. And there is a way of tackling that one. Those, when there's some kind of a spirit enter, they call it, and then poses, and then even nowadays, because of the social media jamana, we could really witness all those things even in the videos also. And then not everyone can handle that one. And then there are some, but if that one comes to the allopathics or various other system, how will they handle that? Because they could chase them out, the spirit, and then we cannot see anything, but they literally could chase them out, and then the person become gaining consciousness again. And that levels of some kind of things which we could not really see as a method. That is something where this kind of a knowledge also can be documented, and then some people the practice can be grow in instead of treating them as a only mental health and then psychological kind of a treatment, then that will really harm. And then I could see many of them who are possessed and then who are being chased away by those traditional practices who are, and then even nowadays, the Christianity also is indigenizing that kind of a practice. Now even the pastor also taking up that kind of a role, and then earlier it used to be done by the traditional healer, but now even the pastor also adopting that kind of a role, because especially for that kind of illness, or we cannot say illness, also some kind of a possess kind of situation. Yeah, just a little intervention. Thank you.
There's a question in the comment section. Are there any special provisions for establishing nutrition rehabilitation centers for specific tribes / tribal population in our country? It's an open question.
Yeah, it is under the UNICEF, especially in the Northern Belt. They rehabilitation center, nutritional rehabilitation center or something like that is there. And then in Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and especially what they call it in the health sector, Bimaru areas. And then they do that one. And then that is mainly for rehabilitations of the severe acute malnutrition. Only when they have shown all that kind of symptoms that their life is in danger, that those people, the ASA is brought in for that one, and then they can refer to the rehabilitation center, nutritional rehabilitation center. And then that one, there they provide various kind of food, and then various resources. They provide the kind of food which is nutritious for them, what is lacking for them. And then they are having some kind of a package for that. They provide, yeah, but not in the southern part, I guess, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Okay. So if there's no more question, I think we can wrap the session up. Or if there's anyone who would like to, because we still have like 5 minutes. So if there's anyone who would like to just add to the session now, is free to speak.
Yeah, if there is no one, I'll just take another time. As Ruby has mentioned about that one, the kind of the mainstreaming of all the tribal systems of healings, that is one thing very interesting and then very dangerous, of course, as he said. One thing is that now the Indian medical systems has been mainstreamed, that what we call the IUS, and then it is under the National Health Mission also. And then even in the public health facilities also there is a choice. But there is very much a problem that various studies also has raised. And then the same kind of a thing, it is likely to come up. In case if there is a need, I think they have to identify in which they can intervene. And then how the whole systems of providing at the health facility, I don't think it will be as the same as the IUS mainstreaming. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you to all the presenters for bringing to light such an important and relevant topic, and especially during a time when health is on everyone's mind right now. So I think with that, we would like to conclude our session. I would like to thank everyone, especially Dr. Priyank, to chair this session, providing his valuable insight. On behalf of JDMC and MGGC, thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, before ending this session, may I request every speaker from this session to switch on your camera for the photo, just for the. So, is it possible to
Everybody,
switch on your
please
camera, the
switch on your
speakers as well
cameras.
as the chairperson?
Sir, Professor Priyank, please, thank you.
I read it in the other way around.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Okay, thank you everyone. I've got this
Yeah,
one.
it's done. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Wonderful session. Thank you.
Deepak, are you stopping the recording?
Yes, I'm doing that.